welcome to are we at night 4? Is that right? Night 4 of budget hearings. I'm Mayor Bianca Motley Broom. We do not have a quorum tonight. Oh, okay. All right. We're about to have a quorum. If I speak slowly, we're about to have a quorum. We've got council members Arnold and Gay in person. I believe Councilmember Carn is going to be joining us soon. Councilmember McKenzie is joining us via Zoom. So as soon as Councilmember Carn joins us, we will have a quorum, but that doesn't preclude us from moving forward as we won't be voting on anything. We're just talking about this budget. So we are starting with economic development, and we will start on page 1 with questions. And good evening, Mr. Hooker. How are you?
I'm well, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much. Okay, I think I got it.
You were on. Questions for Mr. Hooker on page 1. It's not on.
Hello. 51, wait a minute. 51, 5010, of course, I guess we'll get the details, but is that, I'm sorry, my electronic version is not working with me. Is the increase there a new position? What do we have going on right there?
It's 2 extra. It's the program. Oh, okay, you got it. Okay.
I got you.
Okay.
These are the 2 positions that you just hired for?
Yes,
okay.
Because currently the Main Street manager already reports to me. That's in the Main Street
Gotcha.
budget. Program manager of economic development and the program assistant of economic development, both of whom have accepted positions and will be starting on Monday.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
I'm sorry, sir. I should have waited.
No, you must be psychic. You are psychic. Right.
Any other questions on page 1? Moving on to page 2.
Okay, I have another one on contractual services. It looks like you asked for 168, but there's 100 there. Can you give a little more details on what's going on with that?
Sure. You all have an agenda item on the Monday meeting to engage a consultant, myself, to continue to serve in this capacity because I'm not an employee. And that line item is there to cover the cost that would be incurred for that position.
Okay, gotcha.
Councilmember, could you turn on your microphone and speak into it, please? Thank you.
I guess you kind of jumped into this thing in the middle of the battlefield, more or less, kind of parachuted on in. I think you hit the ground running and you got a feel for what we were trying to do. Last year was a little rocky, obviously. I think this year, kind of on sounder footing. Dr. E has got us almost up to a full complement. He's been working really hard, but overall with economic development, I mean, what's your take? Are we going in the right direction now? Or do you think, just in general, as a city, you're pretty well known in terms of economic development, but between Dr. E's Economic Development Department, you and BIDA, where do you think we are? I mean, scale of 1 to 10, it's May compared to December. I'm assuming you've seen some improvement, but wait, I mean, just give me the 2 sentences. Where do you think we're landing here?
Thank you, Councilman.
Councilman Carn, this is Mayor Pro Tem. Can you speak into your mic? I could hear what you were saying, but it wasn't easy.
Sorry about that. I just wanted to get his take so far from economic development's perspective in terms of where we are as a city, and what could we do in terms of this budget to make things, run a little better in terms of some of our economic development goals, which I'm sure you're aware of by now.
Thank you, Councilman. So my assessment is we are headed in the right direction. When I got here, I did not hear the words open for business very often. And now I hear them from multiple leaders. And I thank you all for kind of looking at that as where we need to position ourselves. College Park has tremendous assets and opportunities. It's just had a challenged relationship in the development community. And we are right now on track to get some deals done. From an economic development standpoint, I've been just really grateful for the support of both council and mayor and BIDA leaders in getting some projects moved forward. Project Bulldog, Project Extra, and some of the projects from last year that were stalling, we've got them back on track. And also, you all are supporting us starting to branch out and market some new properties. So there's been, what appears to me to be a shift. It may have been you all doing the same thing you've been doing. I just didn't see it before. But it appears to be a shift towards a little bit more willingness to consider economic development as a priority, and to make, in this space, you need to make quick decisions to move forward. And I've been seeing that from you all as well. So it's looking good. And that's why Dr. A determined that we keep on working in the capacity that we are so that we can get us to the next level.
I have
I appreciate that. This is Dr. E's ship.
Karn, microphone.
Oh, sorry about that. I keep. Yeah, this is Dr. E's ship. He handles the day to day. I think a lot of this is his work and efforts. Just the folks sitting right along his row here are testament to where we are, and he's done a good job. But I think we are doing a bit better. But I'm looking forward to, good results the rest of this year. But we need more feedback in terms of where we are, and some opinions in terms of, and that's from all Dr. E, from the department heads, and where we are. We can take criticism as well if there are things that we can do to help move things along. And I've heard certain things that we need to make sure we tighten up on and double up our efforts on. So don't be afraid to speak up and let us know, and department heads as well through Dr. E. So yeah.
So I've got a question in regard to line 51, 50, 10, and then to 52, 61, 70. So we are budgeting for an economic development director, but we're also budgeting for contractual services. And we're doing both of those fully? Like a full salary for an economic development director and Mr. Hooker's contractual fees?
I mean, Mr. Hook, why we don't have a director in place?
I understand.
Okay, and we are on, Monday there will be introduction of a contract for him on Monday, and
In the capacity of something different than what he's doing now?
no, what he's doing now, yes,
Okay.
because we're cutting out using something, and we're going to hire in-house, but in the meantime, he will be, filling in as the economic development director and by the executive director. Yes.
So, I guess what so $100,000 for that, for the contractual services, what time frame is that supposed to cover? The entire fiscal year?
Yes. Yeah. No. Your part of your salary, Brian, is being that we don't have we don't have a director. We don't have a director in house, so part of your salary coming, will be coming from the director's salary, and then when we do need to have somebody for contracts or what have you. That's what the $100,000 is for.
So Mr. Hooker's fees are coming out of 515010 or 526170?
515010.
So what is 526170 then?
That's there in case we need a contractual services with legal, different areas that we use contractors for. That's what that's there for. And the direction we going, $100,000. I don't think that's too much money for what we have in plan.
I don't know what is planned based upon this. And so hold on a second, because I'm trying to understand, because the detail just says contractual services, $100,000. So what is contemplated for that $100,000? And it might be helpful, Mr. Jackson, if we could get the subledger on what we've done this year. But what is planned for that $100,000?
Well, historically, contractual services and economic development meant just that. Economic development, contractual services. We've always had different contractual services supplement economic development. I guess now more so than ever. So we've had special projects where we've had to bring in consultant on this and that and the other. So it's for a contingency for contractual services with economic development. If we're going to accomplish and close and raise the development projects that we've got planned, we're going to need, ancillary services for that. So the contractual service line are for economic development contractual services that we're anticipating. Now, if they don't use it all, if they don't go through it all, it's fine. It rolls back over into the next budget. But my guess at the rate we're going, and we're going pretty good right now, we may need some additional economic development contractual services, just like any other economic development department does in any other city. So we've always had them in the past. So this isn't an unusual line.
Well, in 2024, we didn't spend anything on contractual services. So we've spent $35,000 this year. The request was for $168,000. As Councilmember Arnold said, that's a pretty specific number in terms of an ask, and I'm sure there was something in mind for that. Mr. Hooker, is that right?
Dr. Adediran just explained that I thought my services would go in this line.
Okay.
And he said, no, my services will come out of 515010, and that this would be reserved for contractual services, such as when we need architectural services, surveys, anything on city-owned property that we want to do a project.
Appraisals.
Specialty brokers. Yeah.
Appraisals are a separate line item,
They are?
525470.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
again, we still have that line, and it's for economic development contractual services. So
I can read that part.
no,
I
we have
appreciate
there. If I
it.
could finish, we have it there. We've had it there over the years. We need it there, and it's there in the event we need additional supplemental contractual services, which this year we probably will. I'm glad we got it. It's wise to have it there. Are you saying it should not be there? But you know what it's for. We've said it 4 different ways here.
I've heard it. This is for contractual services.
Economic development contractual services still is.
Right, and I understand that because I understand that we are
Well, I'm
in
glad
the.
you understand it.
I understand that we're in the economic development budget, and I understand that it says contractual services. I was seeking to understand with a little bit more specificity what the team envisioned for those contractual services, because there is no detail in the transaction report. Because when we look typically in that transaction report, we'll see a breakdown of what's anticipated with that. Saying economic development contractual services is what we're going to do with the contractual services line is using the same words in the definition that is on the page. I can read. I understand that part. I'm seeking greater specificity.
Okay, call it a.
This is Mayor Pro Tem. I would like to speak at some
Call
point.
it a placeholder
Okay.
for contractual services then.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Could we get a little bit more detail on that from anybody at a later date? Like by the time
I
the
would
budget
like to,
goes around,
I'd like to give some input.
I'll be right with you. Give me one
Firstly,
moment.
I am glad that
Give me
I was
one
kind of
moment.
concerned.
Mayor Pro Tem, give me one moment. Could we get
Oh.
some additional detail by the time that we finalize this budget to get an understanding of what
Okay,
these contractual
that's
services
no,
would be?
No problem.
Okay,
But call
great.
it a placeholder.
That's fine. Okay.
For right now.
All right. Mayor Pro Tem?
Okay, one, I was very, very glad. I was concerned when I saw the contractual services number only being $100,000, if that was going to be what Mr. Hooker was going to be compensated, because that would definitely not be appropriate. So I'm glad to see that the, whatever he's going to be paid will be paid out of the 51-50-10. As you know, I am very adamant about making sure that we're compensating the personnel that we have adequately for the services that they render. Now, in terms of the contractual services line, I have some things that I'd like to see in terms of, and I can talk to Dr. Adederin some more, but since we're all here together, in 2024, we didn't move any dirt. And we've only had Mr. Hooker here. We didn't even have an economic development interim or anything for several months. And Mr. Hooker, I think, came in October. So we are trying to develop 6 West. We are building a better College Park. The need to really open our eyes and our minds to whatever is necessary, whatever services are needful to move this city forward in terms of economic development. So I believe that the 100,000 is a reasonable amount to put in there, whether it's a placeholder, but we have to be forward thinking. We've got to look at, we can't just look at having an economic development director and a program manager and an administrative assistant and a Main Street manager in 2025, 2026. We got to look at what are some of the other things that are going to allow us to do the things that we have not been able to do in the city of College Park. So, as we have gone through this budget, and I don't know why it's so specific in this particular department on this line, but I have seen contractual services over and over again as we've looked at the budgets, but it has not been critiqued or criticized to this level. In every department, we have contingency money, and we also have funding for contractual services. We have not asked everybody to tell what needs to be done with those contractual services, but I do believe that if we are forward thinking in 2025, 2026, we're going to need to have this line item funded at 100,000.
I agree with you that we have not had that conversation with every department. And I think that's in part because the budget transaction report has generally had the detail of the contractual services the department expected to undertake. So I don't think that every department just had on the transaction report a line item that said contractual services with a lump amount. So that was the source of my question. If we're going to get that answer at a later date, that's fine by me. Any other questions on page 2? Page 3 has the totals. Any questions on the transaction report? Councilmember, can you make sure your microphone is on? Thank you.
Let's see, in the transaction line, 526230, there are a couple of other events you probably want to add to that. I know the state of the county is one that's glaring. You got South Metro, you got some of the regular standby ones. There are a couple other ones that we generally try to attend. We got 13 in that line. I would recommend you put at least 20 in that line. There's going to be several different events and things going on where we are going to have to get the word out in terms of what's going on with 6 West development and what we've got going on. So we want to make sure we're covering the bases. Add to the fact you're going to have 2 other team members. So hopefully this is going to be a busy year for y'all. So we want you out in the community.
What's that 6230 that you were
This
speaking
is
of?
conventions and meetings.
Okay.
Yeah, we got the regular outfits that we cover, ARC and South Metro, so on and so forth. But there's several others that we want to make sure we cover. And we want College Park economic development to be everywhere, far and wide, and letting folks know we're open. We got land for sale. We got development projects, and quite a few of them going on simultaneously. So.
Well, I just wanted to add on to what you're saying for the South Metro, right? I think last year we had a challenge with needing additional seats. So maybe we don't have enough budgeted there. We might need to increase that a little bit so that we can have enough seats for the next conference.
And additionally, one thing we got to keep in mind, because we own and operate the GICC, there are a lot of additional events, banquets, and things that are going on that occur at the GICC. South Fulton Chamber or Airport Area Chamber, so on and so forth, Aerotropolis, CID, you name it, if they're having events. When we're not there at our facility supporting outfits that are working on our behalf along with the other cities, So if anybody's going to have a table, if anybody's going to be there, or if anybody's going to be welcome, and it darn well better be us. So let's just make sure. And I see a lot of things that go by at the convention center that, we are not participating in. Not that we need to be at every event that's going on there, but there's a lot of things that we want to make sure we're there. And if someone's visiting and they're in College Park and they're looking around and they're saying, well, where's College Park? So, yeah.
So 25, we went to increase it to 20, so 25, you think
Well, I just think that, being that this is one of the major economic development conferences that we have, right? And then we have our BIDA members, we have council members that want to participate, that we should probably make sure we have enough seats at the table. That's all.
Okay. Increase it to 25.
Any other questions on the transaction report?
You got commercial appraisals in here, 52, 54, 70. Now this is for city-owned parcels, right?
Yes, sir.
I know. I mean, what's an appraisal going for nowadays?
You can see the 4 times the cost per unit.
For about
3,000
3,000.
for commercial appraisals.
All right. Well, if you think that's enough, then I guess we're okay.
Again, the majority of the appraisals, sir, that we'll be doing are on BIDA-owned properties, and so you'll see a bigger number over there.
And then you got city-owned, and again, this is where additional contractual services may come in to supplement something like this. So. All right.
My apologies, because 52, 55, 30 on the transaction report has a placeholder for the comp plan, but that's not reflected in the actual worksheet. It's $1,000, not $400,000. Okay. Mr. Jackson, I know you probably won't say that much, but just make sure that you're speaking to the microphone. Thank you. Any other questions on the transaction report? Questions on the org chart or the support?
This is Mackenzie. So basically, what are we putting into the comprehensive planning?
I believe Mr. Hooker is at 400,000.
No, we didn't put money in for the comprehensive plan. That's why it shows it's a placeholder. It was removed because, you know, we did have the workshop and we had the discussion, but
Right.
we did not follow up and say, well, that's what we want to do. So we immediately cut that number out of the budget.
I see.
Well,
So-
if I'm.
And I have concerns about that.
Right, I was
If
gonna
we've
say,
cut it
if I
down
have-
to, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, if I can interject here, we definitely need to put some money in for the comprehensive plan. We talked about it.
Probably have, if we put half of that in there. I think.
Okay, yeah. If it's 200,000, you know, but we can't just only have $1,000 there. Okay, I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem.
You just took the words out of my mouth, and I was going to suggest anywhere from $250,000 because we have to we need to get this done, and we really need a good plan. It sounded like even when we had the ARC, I think it was it, who was the lady that came and spoke to us about
ARC,
the
ma'am. Yes, that was
comprehensive plan, that they felt that it would be beneficial for us to contract. So we may have to take some of that $100,000 worth of contractual services and put it into it, but we definitely need to put some money in. So you said it.
Any additional questions on the transaction? And moving on to the org chart.
I get-
and
No, I do have a question. So is there consensus that we put at least $200,000 into the comprehensive planning?
I believe there
I
is,
think
yes.
Councilwoman Arnold and I are in agreement.
Yeah, everyone, there's consensus on 200.
Okay, thank you. All right, okay.
Any questions on the org chart or supporting documentation? Actually, I do have a question because economic development does not have code enforcement this year. Correct?
Correct.
Right. But it just says on Exhibit C that you've got four code enforcement officers. So I think that's just a typo.
I thought it said 00 in the final two.
Yes, but in the current, it says current. Okay. All right.
We'll update that.
They're over there with the chief building official now, so. All right. If there are no additional questions, we'll move on to Main Street. Councilmember, just make sure your microphone is on.
I have a question for Mr. Jackson. Where does BIDA show the $6 million debt owed to the city?
That, Councilmember, that's gonna be on the balance sheet, that number.
Will it be on this budget we're working on, that line item?
No, the entire debt will not be reflected in this
Just at the
budget.
end.
Correct. Yeah, I can provide a balance sheet as of fiscal year 2025 to show what the debt is.
Okay.
All right. If there aren't any additional questions, we'll move on to Main Street. Questions on page 1? Mr. Hooker, can you tell us a little bit about the facade program? I see that there's $200,000 allocated to that in 526134.
Yes, Madam Mayor. We primarily worked with the College Park Main Street Association to issue awards to business owners and tenants on Main Street to improve the visuals from the outside. And what we discovered is the feedback from CPMSA was that we weren't providing enough. to make an impact. Our previous amount maximum was $5,000, and as you can see, and we also, it was being handled under contractual services, which had a $25,000 allocation for this program. And so we had several of your colleagues attend a CPMSA meeting, and through a lively discussion, we landed on let's shoot for $10,000 and let's spread it, because if you now look visually at Main Street, there is a greater need for facade improvements than there has been in a long time. The facade really isn't enough, but we need this tool in place to help support as we advance getting tenants backfilled into some of those vacant spots.
I was actually in Madison today for the GMA Legislative Policy Council meeting, and we got a foot tour of downtown Madison. And one of the things that their planner shared with the group was that this is a great way to get the look you're looking for, because we can't dictate. There's only a couple places in the state that can dictate from a historical preservation sense of how their Main Street should look. But if folks are participating in a program, we can set some parameters that will allow us to have some uniformity and some opportunities for continuity in the look of Main Street. So it's great.
This is Mayor Pro Tem. I also want to thank Brian, because we've had 3 meetings, aside from the CPMSA meetings, which I attend. We have had 3 meetings with business owners, and we've been able to speak to over 70 business owners in College Park since January and meet with them, hear their voices. And this is really a problem. The amount of money that we had before, I mean, to give somebody $5,000 for something that really they need about $15,000, they still didn't have the money to do it. So Brian, I thank you for this amount. I think this is a good start, and that this will help a lot of our businesses to be able to do more business, because it'll make them look more attractive, but it's also a win for our downtown district. As the mayor has said, this is one of the ways we can transform our downtown, the look of our downtown, our Main Street. And so I just wanted to say I think that number is good. And then hopefully we'll see if we need to increase it in 2026, 2027.
Additional questions on page 1. Questions on page 2. That's pretty straightforward. Transaction report questions. Questions on the org chart or supporting documentation? Moving on to BIDA.
I like to make a comment regarding the Main Street.
Go right ahead, Councilmember.
A few years ago, we changed Roosevelt from Lee Street to Herschel Road, Main Street. That was voted unanimously by Mayor and Council. I bring that up because I didn't see anything in the budget that takes advantage of that corridor. I just want to state for the record that the hospitality district is where we derive most of our revenue for airport-related money. We don't get a lot of revenue from Main Street proper. Most of these are tax-exempt businesses. Post office tax-exempt, City Hall tax-exempt, Woodward tax-exempt to an extent. But you get a lot of your revenue from Lee to Herschel. So that's why we renamed it Main Street. We're not, in my opinion, not taking advantage of that corridor in terms of branding, marketing, advocating GDOT to widen the road, getting a type of get the businesses involved on the other side of the railroad track, Cisco, Buckhead meets. But the other thing I want to say is that years ago we added Virginia Avenue to Main Street. I think fundamentally that's problematic because you can't really give Virginia Avenue the type of support it needs as a Main Street corridor. It's similar to saying West Peachtree is to Peachtree, Ponce de Leon is to Peachtree. They all have their unique characters. But to combine Virginia Avenue as part of Main Street, plus add Main Street from Lee to doesn't provide this Main Street board the adequate resources to get the best impact.
Councilman, I agree with you that part of Main Street, and it's part of Main Street has been, I guess it's easy to forget sometimes, but that's a big deal for us. We want to develop on out. Right now, we've got 2 potential hotels coming out of the ground right next to the AC Hotel, going further down. So that's going to be a lot more people down in that corridor. Roger, you remember that gas station that sat there for years that finally closed? And
Yeah.
so they were holding out. The fella, I forget his name, he was holding out for $300,000. No, he never got it. But the Vilas Patel, they got it for, I think they gave him 100, and they're going to do 2 additional hotels, and they have 2 other lots. So there's going to be some amenities going right down that corridor. So we're going to, well, with any luck, we have a lot more people going down through there. And as you go down further towards Phillips Park in Jamestown, city manager, I want to make sure that we at least update that one BIDA property sign, the 8.29 acres. We want to update that sign so that it's refreshed and has a refreshed look where we know that property is viable, available, and so we want to update that sign. I think it was one of those 4x8 footers going down through there.
Additionally, the AB, the engineer, told me that that's not in the mailing. Those properties have not been added to the postal addresses from Lee to Herschel. They're still reporting Roosevelt, so they should be changed. And also, we're building a dog park and a cyclist park at Herschel and Maine, formerly Roosevelt, that I'm using my community enhancement dollars for. But that is a way to try and brand Main Street where it starts there. So just since we was just on Main Street, I just want to add that to the conversation.
Councilmember Arnold?
I'm actually glad that he brought that, that you brought that up in, that Joe added the whole conversation about Virginia Avenue. Because I'm thinking that if Old National is being considered in this same population, we're also talking about a different part of the city that has its own culture, if you will, Godby Road in Old National. And so I guess the question is, when we are thinking about, or when we're having the conversations with the Main Street Association, are we also having conversations about those other areas?
Councilmember, that is a great question and an important focus. And I think there's, first of all, yes, we are having those conversations. You will see on Monday's council agenda, we have requested approval of a facade improvement grant for a building in that corridor. And
Yes.
I, as an economic development director, actually had to lean on CPMSA to help me process an application for the next facade improvement grant on that side of town. And it's caused me to say, well, what is our relationship with the Old National Merchants Association? What does even the BIDA chair who's here now and I went and presented to them, but we don't have budget line items to support them or that part of the city, that corridor. And so I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad that's on your mind, because I'm looking to you all to help us figure out how do we bring these type of personnel and financial resources to that corridor.
So I would think that now is the time for us to have that conversation, right? Because if we are if we are providing resources, budget resources for College Park Main Street Association, then clearly we have another association that focuses on Godby Road and Old National. Shouldn't we be considering providing funding for them as well?
Well, the Old National Merchants Association we've had for years, and I remember when Bill Edwards was the head of that. Inga Kennedy was there when I got in office. We have not supported them as much as the south side of College Park has never got the kind of support the north side of College Park has gotten. But I think we definitely want to give them a little more consideration. I mean, we pay our membership dues or whatever have you, but there's a lot of activity going on Old National, and despite the fact that we're only, 10 to 15% of Old National is College Park, but that's a very important 10 to 15% because that's the main, corridor of it in terms of commerce and business. Not that there's plenty of business going further down, but yeah, I think we need to put a little bit more in terms of just investing in the process and the Old National Merchants Association itself. We do our memberships to all of the, the airport area chamber, the Carmelita Scott, Diane Matthews with the South Fulton Chamber, so on and so forth. But we just want to make sure that our commitment is just as strong over there. So I think putting a little something extra in the hat with the Old National Merchants Group is probably a good idea. I try to attend some of those meetings, as many as I can, and they're making progress, but they need a little more partnership from us, which would help them out a bit. So I think if we put something in the pot just to make sure that they're covered, they got special projects, they got cleanup projects, they got holiday initiatives, they got all of the above, and we participate as much as we can. But your true commitment at the end of the day, if it's in your budget, if there's something in your budget, that kind of speaks to it a little more than just your verbal commitment. So yeah, I think we need to put something in to make sure that we're prioritizing the Old National Merchants Association. We've got a lot of issues down there, and they need the help more than some of the other areas. I don't know if a lot of people are aware, but close to half of our crime activity is in the Godby Old National Corridor. That's why we're in meetings today talking serious overhaul there. And if we're going to do some of the things that we're planning on doing in terms of the blight, getting rid of the substandard living conditions and the substandard motel activity and the whole nine, then we need to put some push down there. And I think the Old National Merchants can help us with that, but we got to support them too.
I'm wondering how to balance this, because we've got a Main Street manager who's employed through the city.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Old National Merchants Association is a separate organization, and I'm wondering if we might maybe have the opportunity to contract with them to perhaps have them administer facade grants in the Old National Godby Road corridor, or
I've got
something.
a suggestion.
Well, I was still talking about, and I think Mayor Pro Tem's after me, but
Yes, ma'am.
and so I think we need to think creatively about how we leverage that partnership in a more impactful way in the corridor, because I think you're absolutely right. But Mayor Pro Tem?
I'm not sure because I don't know historically what the situation has been, but I know that, you have several Main Street associations throughout the state in Main Street programs. It's Main Street USA. So not in our Main Street does cover more than one ward. Now, especially now that our Main Street has been extended down to where Councilman Gay was speaking in terms of, I think that I definitely agree that we have to do something to really reach out and to empower the businesses. And like I said, when I met with business owners, I'm meeting with business owners all over College Park. The lion's share are coming from the Main Street, Virginia Avenue corridor, but they're throughout the city. I think when we were talking about this $200,000, we're looking at the Main Street area, but even as, again, the mayor keeps kind of stealing some of my word, both Mayor and Tracy Arnold, that I also believe that we need to kind of partner. We need to get more involved in what's going on in Old National and find out what their needs are. In this particular budget cycle, yes, it would be nice to put money, but we also need to find out what the needs are and what their vision is. So my thought is that I think that right now we have a Main Street manager, but that we pay, but we don't have a Old National District manager that we pay. So I think that we've got some conversations that need to be had in the future, and to start really working towards a solution that will really bridge all the parts of College Park together.
Councilmember Carn?
Well, I was gonna say, this budget is for Main Street, which means what we got now going down to the park, like Councilman Gay said. So this isn't the budget for Old National stuff, but once again, this is why in economic development, you got 100,000 in contingent funded for stuff like other things along those lines. So, yeah.
Councilmember Arnold?
I was just going to say, I mean, even if we wanted to prioritize, Old National Godby corridor, maybe we can park $25,000 for some of these same, right, to at least start, to support the businesses there.
And if you recall, Brian, we talked about the facade, program we've discussed that too, for Old National, the businesses on Old National,
Right.
and we've discussed,
Improving,
adding,
right.
improving the facade.
But this 200,000 that we're looking at was for the Main Street corridor
correct.
and the facades in that area. And again, I believe Councilman Gay was trying to help us see that Main Street goes further. So I think that in terms of this 200,000 that we're looking at, if there's going to be a 25, I'm not going to fight it. I know that as we keep on doing this budget, we keep adding and adding and adding. So just want my colleagues to understand that when you get to your community engagements, just expect those amounts to be lower, because we're just adding on, adding on, adding on. But that's all good. If that's what we want, if we think that that's what the city needs, fine. But I think the factor here for this particular line item was what we can do in terms of facades for our entire Main Street and the Virginia Avenue corridor.
Councilmember Gay?
And just as a footnote, Joe, what did Jerry McDowell owe? What's it called? What?
CID's, Airtropolis CID.
CID? So
Community Improvement
CID.
District.
CID.
So there is a CID on Old National. Or at least that was an
Well,
effort to create a CID on Old National.
That covers Camp Creek corridor.
But he told me that
Goes
it
down
went
Main
down
Street.
to Sullivan. But I guess what I'm trying to say, I'm trying to provide some additional information that there could be a conversation with the CID to talk about ways to get additional funding on Old National through their CID, which they have not quite added that to the South CID. That's what I'm trying to provide.
I think
And-
either way,
and-
I'm sorry.
And Old National is a GDOT road. That's
Mm-hmm.
the challenge that we're having with Old National, unlike our roads. They got their own rules, and it's very convoluted.
I think there's a great opportunity.
This is Mayor Pro Tem, okay.
I think there's a
I was
great
going to say,
I think
okay.
there's a great opportunity to.
go ahead, Mayor, I'll wait, go ahead.
I think there's a great opportunity to figure out how we partner.
Yeah.
Period. Whether it's
Yeah.
with CID, whether it's with Old National Merchants Association, whether it's with all of these groups and more, to determine how we pour more into the South Side corridor. I think that's, and Councilmember Carn and then Councilmember Kensey.
All right, well, we don't have to necessarily wait. This 200,000 in Main Street is for Main Street, to improve Main Street that we have right now. It's been lacking going further down towards Herschel, so we want to bolster
Yeah.
that as well. That's number one. In terms of Old National, I think we need to put a little more in the pot. If we put some side money in Old National, we don't have to add to this budget. If we take 25 out of that consultant pie and designate that towards some facades along Old National, then that covers it without us adding a dime to the budget. So maybe we look
I
at
like that.
I don't want to leave without. I understand you saying this is for further conversation. This is for now too, and we want to make sure that Herschel going down Main Street is covered, but we also we have some contingency, so maybe we split that up 25, 75, and at least have some facade activity, a little more there as well, so that'd be my suggestion.
Mayor Pro Tem?
And again, I wasn't saying we should not. I just wanted to make sure that we understood that that line item was focused, directed into one area. I got great news today that Aratropolis is actually going to have their headquarters right here in College Park in the GICC corridor today. And I think we are looking at some amazing opportunities having these organizations within our city limits. And so there's a lot that we can do in the future, especially, like I said, having partners like that, making their home in our city. So we definitely, like I said, I'm not against giving the money, but I do also believe that we still need to start having the conversations and bringing in the other parts of our city and our business community as well. So I just want to make that clear. I wasn't saying one or the other, but we have some great opportunities ahead of us, and we're going to have partners that are going to want to work alongside with us.
Mr. Hooker?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to remind the councilman and all of you councilors that the wisdom that you imparted to us regarding the facade improvement awards was that they needed to be bigger. They need to be $10,000. So I wouldn't recommend you allocate 25.
Okay, well, 50.
I just want you all to have consensus on a number
Sure,
that gives
that
us
makes
clear
sense.
direction.
Okay.
That makes sense. All right. So we've talked a lot about facades. We've talked a lot. So we are on BIDA. Questions on page 1.
How you doing, Madam Chair?
Excuse me, before we go to Biden, on the facade, we have $200,000 already there.
That's for Main
But
Street.
that's only for Main Street.
Okay,
Right, we want to add an extra line and make an adjustment to whatever that.
That's gonna be in
contingency
economic
number.
development, though, not in the Main Street.
Right.
Right.
oh, okay, so put what, 100?
50,000.
50,000, yeah, 50,000,
Or, yeah,
okay. And that'll be for all night.
yeah.
But we're going to take it from somewhere else. We're not trying to add additional money to the budget,
That's
city
right.
manager.
That's right. They're going to make an adjustment.
Yeah, let's move it around. Just work your magic. You can take it out of Dr. E's salary. He won't even miss that.
I think originally they said the contingency line.
So 52, 57, 90 for BIDA. I believe that's on. Somebody give me some detail there. If it's broken down, I'm missing it.
So this is where, through BIDA, the city of College Park participates in the SkyTrain.
Ah, okay. All right.
I have a question on 39-2000 on page 1. I see where we are anticipating $10 million for land sales. What is that based on?
Yes. So what we did was we looked at the prospective land sales that are coming up for some of the projects that we mentioned earlier, totaled them all up, and then multiplied it by a fudge factor, assuming some of the deals might not go through, and that's the number that came out. I will say an oversight that I made was I put all of the deals in this number, and 2 of them may close before the end of fiscal 25. So,
All right.
just a
That's
heads
a
up.
good problem to
I
have.
have a follow-up question to that statement, for the finance director. I thought the other night when we talked about land, we talked about revenue from the power. I thought you said that this was a cash budget and those revenues are accrual and they're not gonna be considered. So he's adding revenue, but this land sales, how you showing that?
Yeah, so the land sale would be revenue. Once we sell it, we collect the revenue, the proceeds for
But
it.
you're not adjusting that against any expenses though, are
No.
you? He's saying yes, you saying no. Because we here tonight on a cash basis and land sales is on the accrual basis in the fund balance.
Well, he's speaking in reference to the contingencies, which we use to balance the budget.
That's what he's using, a contingency?
Yeah. Well, that's what he just highlighted to me. The $7 or so million in contingencies. I mean, we don't net that against the revenue generated from the sale. That's what I'm trying to say. So they're two
Yeah,
separate line items.
I was going to say to Mayor Pro Tem, when I look at the revenue, now I know the total revenue that you're looking at for BIDA is $18,465,418 But then the land sales of that 18 million, we're looking at 10 million in land sales. So basically, I guess if for some reason we didn't do the 10 million in the land sales, the budget really is at 8 million, is based on about $8 million. Is that correct, Mr. Hooker? Or,
Yes, that is.
because that's what Councilman Gay is saying, like, we're putting money, we're saying that we're gonna come into money that we don't necessarily, I'm just praying, hoping and praying that we do, but, you know, I've been around here for like 7 years now and BIDA for over 5, and it has not happened, but I do hope and pray, and I believe that we will close on these properties, but I guess now that I'm looking at it, I'm seeing that the rest of the budget is not contingent upon the $10 million.
Right, mine was an accounting question. You told us you can't project revenue against expenses. When we were talking about the revenue we would make from the data center, when Hugh was presenting the other night?
I remember.
That was here.
No. When I asked, could we project his revenue from the data centers against his expenses, and you said no, only cash in now for the budget, not projections. But you're saying it's a placeholder, like the other ones that was in the.
Correct.
But nowhere else. Okay. But I thought those placeholders were for you to balance the budget, not to expense debt against it.
So the purpose of the contingencies, we book it because we have excess revenue. We have too much revenue. And so what we do with the contingencies, we use it to balance the budget.
All right, so at the end, you're gonna give us the line item for the total contingencies, right?
Yeah.
We have a conversation.
Well, I've already sent that
All right,
in an email.
today,
No, that was last week. I
Last
thought.
week.
Yeah, remember I asked for that last
what was the
week.
total amount?
I can't remember.
What was the total amount?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I
It's in
can-
our email. I'll pull
Because
it up.
Dr. E just asked when we started, where are we gonna get money from? You was just being rhetorical?
No, with all this addition, I mean, I don't have the exact figure for the contingency,
Okay.
but we keep adding, adding. Because the $211 million with projected revenue coming in to balance the
Right.
211 expenses. But, and that don't even include the $4 million for community enhancement, for, the forwards and increase in salary. All that's not even been, accounted for. But I did tell my directors, don't get too comfortable, because we might, once we, looking at this budget over, we might have to cut somewhere.
He just said we got too much money.
I-
That's what he said.
I have one question in reference to something that we did talk about the other night, and it's a question here, and that's line 33, 1100 for federal grants. So, can I get a little more detail on that? And then, are we or are we not? I mean, are we? Do we have an expense against this budget number? Do we even know what it is?
I believe that's part of the EPA, with the
Brownfield.
cleanup and what have you.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's,
And
yeah,
so-
that's what,
So, but that's not our number. That 225,000. That's their number.
yeah, I believe so. Yeah, that's their number, working with Stantec, with the Flint River,
Yeah.
and, all these other EPA programs, yeah, that's,
Okay.
that, yeah, that's their number.
Thank you.
Other questions on page 1? Moving on to page 2. Page 3 is just totals. Questions on the transaction report?
Wait a minute. 52, 5450, the legal fees. It says legal fees per month. I'm hoping that we're not saying it's gonna be $250,000 a month. I'm sorry, let me give you the page number. I'm on page 2 of 3. You see it?
Yep.
Well, it has legal fees per month, but then it has the amount at $250,000. Am I reading that
Councilwoman,
wrong?
Yeah, that was a oversight
Oh,
on our
oh,
part.
okay,
We
okay.
originally had 12 in there multiplied by 20,000 a month, and the decision instead of 240 was to make it 250, and that's how
Okay,
they
all right.
redid the number. So it is not
Okay,
250.
okay, all right. I just want to make sure.
Is that the BIDA attorneys?
Yes.
Any other questions on the transaction report? Questions on the org chart or the supporting documentation?
I have a comment, about the old chart. 2 comments. I don't want to keep harping on this, but Mr. Jackson, I don't think it's a good, not tonight, but I don't think it's good to use fund balance against expenses. Eventually it runs out, so I would caution you to continue that practice. The second thing I want to say is, I'll wait till they get through talking.
Go ahead, Councilmember.
The second thing I want to say is that when I was mayor pro tem on BIDA last year, Unfortunately, we didn't sell any land, but there was an effort to give the volunteers, the appointees, more money. That amount they were getting just simply wasn't enough. I thought I had the support on BIDA at the time, so without getting into a full conversation, I do want the appointees. I think they should be given more than what is it? What is it now? The
150?
It's
150.
150 a meeting.
But I mean, that's not a lot of money for people making $1 million decisions.
No, it used to be $50. We wanted to up that, we knew that was low. And we wanted to up everybody.
I had consensus for $1,000. I just that we ran out of time. We just didn't get on the agenda
So
You
$1,000
had
per
consensus on
meeting?
BIDA for 1,000?
per person.
Y'all took a vote on it or what?
Well, there was consensus from Salisa. There was consensus from your appointee. There was a consensus from, I thought you had given consensus. I was given consensus, so that was 4 votes.
Well, I'm not gonna support $1,000 stipend for board appointees. I'm not gonna support that, but y'all do what you want there.
I need a point of clarification. Is Councilman Gay saying 1,000 for the year? Is that what he's saying?
I mean,
He's saying per meeting, right?
I mean, it was an ask. It's no reason to get upset. I'm just trying to give people who come and spend hours at meetings and make decisions on $1 million worth of land sales more than $50. I mean, you get what you pay for.
Well, we've gone from $50. I remember there was a $75 number. I heard that. And I remember a $100 number. And then I heard $150.
Last year, we said
last year.
150.
That's,
No,
I mean, you can keep it
we
at 50.
approved.
It
Well,
doesn't.
Wait, hold on, everybody. Hold on. Let's one person talk at a time.
Okay, go ahead.
Councilmember Carn
it
had the
was-
floor.
Let him finish.
I remember I heard.
Last year, we increased it to 150.
Well, I remember, what, and this is just me, and my recollection may be bad, but I remember the meeting where the consensus was going from $50 to 75. It came up to this body and we said, if it's gonna be 75, we want it to be 75 for all the other boards, so that we're fair across the board. I remember 75. Then I do remember a conversation about 150. Now, whether or not we codified that, I don't know.
We did.
There was a vote for $150 in the record. Is that?
It is
Is that right?
there is a vote for $150 in the record. And then you might also remember me bringing it up a couple of times, especially when it came to keep College Park beautiful.
I remember that.
So all of the boards
So
should
everybody should be at
be
one.
getting 150.
And it, at the least starting in July for sure, but
Yeah, it's,
So-
and Mayor, since I started to comment, let me end by saying, it is of no consequence to me what you get. You can get 50, you can get 25, you can get nothing. But the point I'm making is, no land has sold. And I'm asked, why isn't College Park selling land? And because you have people on a board who are working essentially for free. In fact, that's a conversation, that's a conversation about replacing board appointees with people who have the business acumen and experience and contacts to help sell this land. It makes no sense for us to have all this land, and you two have been on the board for at least 4 terms and nothing has been sold. So, Mr. Hooker, as you get praised about what you're doing, keep in mind that your job is to sell land. And if you're going to be having meetings with people who are just there as placeholders and being, beholden to their elected official, then we may be having this conversation next year and year after next. It's a painful truth, people.
This is Mayor Pro Tem. I just want to clarify a couple of things. One, anybody that was on a board in College Park up until last year was getting $50, except for BIDA. When I was a chair of BIDA, I believe, or maybe before I became the chair, we raised BIDA stipends to $75 for the reason that, it's part of the reason, Councilman Gay has brought up a very good point, a very valid point. But we knew that the BIDA members of all the boards, there's a lot that's required, and there should be criteria for determining who more specific criteria for determining who's on that board. There's a lot of work. If there's any board of this city that requires more, almost as close to the city council. Last year, our BIDA members were targeted because members of the community had problems with decisions that were being made. No other board received that type of chastisement. It is not easy serving as a member of the BIDA board. One, because anything that has to do with economic development, you're usually going to have some folks that are excited about it, some folks that are not. And then that puts these citizens in a position, and they got to go home and for something that they're getting $75 for. So last year, BIDA was raised to 150, and then we as a council voted to raise all board members to 150. But I do believe we need to look at maybe even the BIDA charter or whatever ordinances are associated with it and really begin to look at who the selections, what the criteria is for selecting who goes on that board, and what the compensation or the stipend is, because it does require a lot of homework.
All right, so any other questions on BIDA?
Well, I don't disagree with y'all. BIDA board members do a lot of hard work. I think going into the thousands is a little bit high, but if there's interest in moving it past 150, we got to consider the other boards that we have. Yeah, BIDA's a bit more involved. It is. So if we do an increase, I think if we come up with something that's a little, not quite that pricey, let's see what we can, if there's consensus for a higher number. That's not my number, but that's just me. And I respect your number, but I think that's a little high. But if there's somewhere in between there that you think makes sense, I think it's worth it.
Also, Councilman Carn, just to interject, BIDA can set its own rate and bring it to the city council. And that's another thing that's a part of the BIDA. The BIDA board has the ability as a board to sit down and determine what they think their stipend or compensation should be. So really, technically speaking, at this point, I think that that's something that the BIDA board and the executive director, the chairwoman is here. If that is something that they want to start discussing, they should go ahead and do it and then bring it to the council.
And I think that's what happened. That's exactly what happened last year.
Exactly.
That the BIDA came to us and said that they wanted to raise their stipend to 150. And then that's how we ended up making all of the other boards and committees at 150. But if the work is significantly more tedious and requires more time, then, time is money. Right? So, I agree that, having people with specialized backgrounds and understanding what it is, that's being asked of them and, paying people for their time. So I don't know what that number is, but maybe it's a different rate for BIDA versus the other committees. But
if BIDA if it's up to BIDA, then we let BIDA figure something out. Let's just keep in mind, these are all, volunteer boards, quasi-volunteer boards. So we want to make sure that that's understood, and we appreciate the hard work everybody puts in, planning and zoning, BZA, all of them. But yeah, BIDA's more involved, absolutely. And
this is Mayor Pro Tem, just my last thing. Now, the 150 for all board members, that was totally reasonable.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on. I know because of the lag, it's hard to discern, but Councilmember Carn was right in the middle of speaking.
Oh, okay. I thought it had stopped. I apologize.
Mayor Pro Tem, go right ahead. I'm good.
Okay. I totally stand by the decision of the council to increase all boards to 150. $50, that was Ice Age type. So we got all of our boards to the city to something that was reasonable. Does it give them what they are valued at or what they're worth? No. However, as we're saying, is BIDA chairs here. So, Madam Chair, if that's you, and I'm on BIDA, and I'm not saying it because I want the increase. I work for free pretty much. But I do see members of the community, and I think this is something that BIDA may want to investigate should the chair and the executive director decide that this is what you want to put on your agenda.
Any other thoughts on BIDA?
Just pay up the $6 million y'all owe
All right, so we're going on to TAD.
us. Just pay us so we can do some stuff with that money. Yeah.
Any questions on TAD? Thank you, Mr. Hooker.
Line 31, 1100. Is there a reason why we expect to bring in less money this year with TAD, less revenue? Or are we just being conservative?
The question was, is there a reason we expect to bring in less money on 31-1100?
Mayor Pro Tem, I can tell you that the projections for 2026 are conservative at this point.
Is it any better?
I mean, we could take it off if that was the consensus, to move it closer to the 2025 actual amount.
No, I just wanted to ask, but again, that might be, as we're adding monies on, we may want to go back and look at that one again for our revenue. If we need a source of revenue, we might need to be more specific, but I appreciate you being conservative.
Any other questions for TAD? All right, so we're moving on to fire. I'm sorry. Yeah, I apologize. Yeah. Good evening, Chief. Questions for Chief Jones on page 1. Correct. So, Chief, I do have a question on page 1. 526200. Yes, sir. The last line on page 1. See that training is a lot of that is EMT training, but it means it's a huge increase. I'm all for training, but why? What's the change? Like, what happened?
One of the biggest things you'll see from the change from our budget is that the EMS, the 3560, came into the administration budget. So those increases are a reflection of Chief Taylor's group or division coming in. So
Okay,
so now we only have 2 divisions in the fire department. So
I
that's
see.
where the change comes from.
I see. So, all right, that makes sense. Other questions on page 1? Councilmember,
It's 85.
thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
kind of want to bring one thing to the council's attention. there's one slight change that's brought to Mr. Jackson's attention. For the 515017, the EMS incentive, it's only one paramedic. So that number is kind of reflected as 8,500, and it should be 3,500. So that's one change we need to make. Chief Taylor's gonna be our only paramedic listed in that account. The rest are EMT A's or I's.
Any other questions on page 1? Or fire administration. And Councilmember, Chief Jones shared with us earlier that Chief Taylor's unit is getting folded into fire administration, so the increases that you see are reflective of that.
Yeah, we dissolved
Yeah.
3560. We dissolved 3560 and brought it into the administration budget. So, yeah. Yes.
Moving on to page 2. Let me ask this question generally, Chief. Based upon that dissolution of one department into fire administration, are there any other, I mean, we see that there are changes up that are substantive. Are there substantive changes up in your budget that aren't because of that?
Explain that a little bit better.
Yeah, I know. It wasn't the greatest question. Let me try again. So, the combination of the two departments coming in, does that account for all of the large increases in changes to the budget that we see?
Well, not all. Most of
Okay.
the changes you see is going to come through one-time expenses that we're kind of projecting to deal with. But when we looked at the budget, we realized that Chief Taylor's division was just 3560 was one person, and everything associated with it. So it really didn't make sense to have a budget division of one.
Sure.
And so we kind of absorbed that in. Initially, we were looking at possibly moving community risk reduction out. So now we would have administration, suppression, and community risk reduction. That's more of a balanced budget, which makes kind of much more sense. But we couldn't find the budget division to put another number in it, because we looked at the numbers, it was 3,500, 3,520, and 3,560, but there was nothing in the middle. So I'm like, there has to be something else in the middle. We just haven't been able to put our hands on it. So that's going to be a projection possibly at another year, at another submission.
My name is Theresia Huggins. I'm the executive assistant to the fire chief. Some of the other things that you might notice with upward numbers and percentages are, as Chief Jones was saying, one-time expenses, so some maintenance type things that we need to do, improvements for the station, replacing some of the equipment or maybe some of the furniture.
Okay. I appreciate the two of you being able to, I didn't word the question very well, but you're answering it, so thank you so much. Any additional questions on page 2? Moving to page 3. It's pretty straightforward. There we are replacing, what did you want in 547590?
Yeah, we had 2 high mileage vehicles. Our training truck was well over 100,000 miles, and the one that our inspector drives as well. Most were high maintenance, high mileage vehicles. We're looking at replacing those vehicles with something more kind of where we need to be with it. So we're looking at purchasing one pickup and one Tahoe.
But it looks like, doesn't look like you got everything that you asked for in 547590. You requested 246 or almost 247, and the recommendation is 103.
Yeah.
And initially it was for the
Can you, sorry.
Initially, it was 4 vehicles. Thank you. Initially, it was 4 vehicles, and we dropped it to 2.
We try to look at the number got so high, we wanted to be fiscally responsive, so we kind of stretched, a lot of our asks were kind of stretched over a couple budget years because we want to hit with just too much expense. We try to be, so Dr. Need and I kind of worked on that, kind of spreading it out a little bit. So just kind of make it a little more easy to swallow.
Understood. Transaction report questions?
Yes, sir.
Make sure your microphone is on.
Put your money in for the festival.
I did.
How much you put?
15,000.
See, that's the problem. Yeah, come on. Yeah, that's the problem. Teresa, how much money do you need? Tell the truth.
10 to 15.
15? That's it?
10 to 15.
Let's do 15.
Yeah.
Well, they partner with us every year.
Yes.
It's not a Fort festival
Yeah.
anymore. It's a citywide.
It's citywide.
Yeah, citywide, I think what happened was we started looking at those numbers. We just need to kind of project and have some money set aside to address those festivals and those city functions, just so we can kind of cover.
Well, it is your National Fire Week. and
It is.
the
It is.
governor
It's gonna be a
takes
big
that
event.
serious,
Each year it gets bigger and bigger,
because fire is a serious problem in our community.
For
Not
sure.
to be taken lightly.
for sure.
What do you guys put into Kids Fest?
Kids Fest, you have one on Kids Fest?
They actually partner with us, Joe. They had no. What happened was they moved their Fire Week
Mhm.
to the festival.
Correct.
So that's like National Night Out. I think with Kid Fest they are vendors.
What's the number, Chief?
Let me see if I can
in terms of
find
Kids
it.
Fest?
We're looking for it.
All right.
I'm not sure if we separated the items per. Yeah. Yeah. You may have to get it for your Councilman Carter.
All right.
We'll put a note on it and come back to you on it. Make sure the council everybody's aware.
All right.
It was a win-win partnering with you in Award 4 because you had the venue and we wanted to make sure everybody kind of seen what we were doing. And plus the folks loved the fire trucks and all that. It was a great opportunity for us to get the
I
visibility
just
we
know
needed.
every year y'all
Yeah.
don't have any money.
Yes. And that's why with the 15, I need the 15.
That's
in
all
there.
I was asking.
Yes.
We put 15,000
All right.
total
Yeah.
for award festivals, so that's supposed to cover all of the events that we participate in.
Yeah.
10 was for the community, so that left 5.
And that covers your 5-week activities.
Yes,
And whatever else may pop up. So, Councilman Carter, I guess your question is about 5,000.
5,000.
Okay.
Chief,
Ma'am.
so you got us some training
Yes. Yes.
and got us on the road to
Mm-hmm.
being concerned.
Yes. Yes.
Do you have money set aside in your budget so we can better plan for event readiness?
Yeah, the plan is with Chief Smar and I are both EMA instructors, and we kind of partner well with the state and GEMA. So the plan is to make a lot more partnerships and bring more people in and kind of, I mean, if I had it my way, I think I'd be looking for a division chief of EMA, because what things I'm finding is a lot of those ancillary duties, it's difficult to have an additional duty to something that's so big, so vast.
Sure.
You know, so when you start looking at that point, you need almost the time and attention and personnel to deal with that division because it's so encompassing. I mean, you can spend a lot of departments, all they do is one side is EMA and they function down that lineage, you know. So we can think between us both, we can satisfy a lot of the EMA needs with the help of FCMA and GEMA and our local partners. That's the goal right now, but we'll see. This year will kind of be the tell based on how we are when we start doing the drills and the EMS 300, the EMA, the 300 and 400 and all that stuff, if it's too overwhelming. And plus, if we have an event and I'm the EMA director, exactly where do I go? Do I go downstream to the event or do I stay in the EOC? So all of a sudden now you kind of splitting the baby, if you will, trying to figure out what role you play in that event.
Man, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
There used to be a conversation by your predecessor, Wade, that we need to start having a conversation about another fire station. We got Hawthorne Station, you have to cover the airport daytime population. And I'm just saying at some point we gotta deal with that reality.
Councilor, we already,
Where would it be?
6 West area.
Well, they may need one if you're talking about building a $2 billion community. But I'd also like the trucks to get
Jamestown.
over to,
Jamestown's the other location. So,
we can have that conversation tomorrow.
yeah. So we looked at, what I did was I got with GIS. Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned that.
Back
'cause I had-
tonight, we can talk
Yes,
about
understood.
We can buy that tomorrow. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So what I did, we started looking, I got with GIS and had a map of the city. And so we tried to took a radius of engine coverage and truck coverage, area truck coverage to see where our response gaps are. As we looked at down towards Jamestown's with a big gap, and if you start looking at 6 West, we run approximately 7,000 calls or 75, depending on the year, calls a year. So if you had a complex like 6 West, another hotel, you start looking at demand on your resources, you're gonna need additional personnel to deal with that. So we can't keep the same 3 stations and expect the same coverage. Especially when you start looking at the west side of the city, there's not really anything. When you start looking at, go to your map on
This
page
a fire
13.
station right here?
Yes, sir, that's a depiction. Yeah, yeah. So if you look at page 13, there's a map on page 13. If you kind of refer to it, it's kind of what I use to kind of determine where we should have coverage.
And getting Atlanta to support you. I know I fire of, I think it was 4060 Herschel Road. I saw coverage from Atlanta. Would this would that help you, or you still would need an additional station?
Well, a lot of times you start looking at resources from Atlanta and East Point, Hateville, and City of South Fulton, depending on the size. Because a lot of times, if you look part of the paperwork, there's NFPA 1710 that dictates based on what's on fire, how many personnel you have on fire scene. And when you start looking at our total staffing at this point was 14, I think it's moved up maybe to closer to 18 now.
Yeah.
So if you, for one working fire on one garden complex, I think you needed 21 personnel. That's everybody we got on shift plus more. So I think that's when we start looking at, you need Atlanta and South Fulton because you need those additional bodies to kind of deal with all the command responsibilities you have on the fire scene and make your scene safe.
And also important is that this city, unlike most cities, are building data centers.
Yes, yes.
We have a permit pending for the battery storage facility.
That's affirmative, yeah.
And we got some unique challenges that relate to it.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those station locations, I thought about the battery storage in Chick-fil-A headquarters and Naturally Fresh. So that's kind of where I picked it for Station 4 would be on that west end. Must be have maybe a specialty station, maybe hazmat, maybe heavy rescue to kind of cover those areas. Because if we need a heavy rescue or hazmat contingent, we have to rely on City of Atlanta or City of South Fulton because we don't currently have those capabilities here.
Do you know what, by any chance, we paid for the Clayton County station?
Not offhand. Somebody.
Was it around 8 million? Way more? Less?
Yeah, I don't think it was $8
That's
million.
It was like 1.3. I
Yeah, it
believe.
was like along
How
the
long
lines
ago
of the
was
police
that?
station.
Well, it was SPOS funding.
No, I know where it came from, but why? I would have thought it cost more.
Well, the police station was in the upper ones, high ones. I know that the fire station might have been. I think it was more than 2, but it was. Now with Naturally Fresh Boulevard, Chick-fil-A, the county, what used to be county, South Fulton, fire station number 7,
Right
where
up the
Walton
street.
was at,
Yep.
is probably the closest proximity. So even if it's a smaller 2-bay or whatever have you to kind of supplement some of this stuff.
Yeah.
What would this cost?
And I wanted to kind of give you an idea of what we needed. And I understand what you're saying, Councilman Curran, but what I've looked at, a lot of times the 2-bay station gives you so much limitations on what you can do professionally. Because just right now, Station 3 in that location with 2 bays, you can only really run 2 pieces of equipment out of it. So all of a sudden that kind of limits on what you can do, especially when you start looking at growth. I mean, sooner or later our city's going to take off and grow. And if we kind of stay with the 2-bay model, I think we'll be kind of locked in on exactly how much more equipment we can put in the station.
Well,
You might as well hit 3 bays or more if you can, because that gives you some flexibility.
You got 400 houses, Hawthorne Station,
Yeah.
20 feet apart,
Correct.
made out of wood.
Made out of wood. And so you got to protect both of them.
They get the burning.
Yeah.
And sometimes, depending on where it is, you got to protect the one on both sides. Yes.
But how much would something like this cost the budget? I think
Yeah.
it would be a bond, but what would something like
Yeah.
this cost?
So if you look back through the paperwork I gave you, it's kind of a step-by-step. We're looking at, from land acquisition to doing an RFQ, doing all that stuff. We have to look at engineers to kind of give, especially with today's prices. We don't know what something's gonna cost for the price of steel and concrete and everything else. So we just don't know, but I think we have to take a responsible approach to see what we can do fiscally and handle, and we may just have to figure out what we
Could
can
you
do.
just
through-
make a hypothesis, please?
I would imagine 8 million,
Okay. All right.
so.
All right.
Because I think we need to start dreaming a little bit big and kind of approach some of those deficiencies we have.
Absolutely. Man.
Chief,
Yes, sir.
the last fire station I built in Richmond, fire station 17, Google LLC. If we're gonna spend 8 million, I'll go 10.
Yeah, could be.
Look at it, it's on Sims Avenue,
Mm-hmm.
and it's state of the art,
Yeah.
fire station. And then the EOC,
Yes.
it's right in there. You remember
Yep.
we've talked?
Yep, exactly.
You know.
And
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because if you look back at another one of my renderings, if you look at Fire Station 2, that location from Fire Station 2 to 3 are so much close in proximity, it kind of gives us a lot right here, but not a lot in the middle. So
Yeah.
my preference is, right now, we need a training center. We need training rooms so we can have, because we share the community room with PD and the community. So you get to a point where we could kind of jockeying for a position to kind of get in and get our training done.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been in before. Our recruits got put out because somebody else had the room, reserved.
And our current station was built approximately 18 years ago.
Which one? Station 2?
Down.
Yeah.
The new station
Yeah.
one,
What, about 18 years ago?
2005, November
Yeah.
5th, when we opened the
That's,
doors.
and the last thing I said, that we get back on the budget, but
Exactly.
with the data center, with NextAir, with those, I would think the revenue from there could service a bond debt easily,
Mm-hmm.
without dipping into our other funds.
So Councilman Gay, if you guys go to page 21, and you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So in the vision I'm looking at, once we start looking at our station allocations, there's Station 2 is a great location for us to have our EOC there and our training room. It can be a dual-purpose room on the back end, because I think we just went through a remodel of Station 2, but I can move my community risk reduction personnel there, the training staff there, and have an EOC coordinator there. That will give us so much more flexibility and what we can do as far as going forward. We wouldn't have to go to East Point to use a training tower because we don't have one. We could do a lot of things in-house, except having to partner and beg for space and all that stuff. And that picture
Can
for training
PD
centers on the
can-
next page.
Can PD partner with y'all on
Sure.
joint use
I
space?
won't be selfish. Yeah, we can,
So
we can make it
you
happen.
basically talking about a public safety complex.
I want to get that far with it though, yeah.
What you
Yeah.
getting there?
Yeah, I know. If you go to the next page in 22, that's kind of a rendering what a training center would look like, if not maybe on that scale. But that's kind of what we need for training and things of that nature. This helps your ISO rating as well.
This a burn.
Yeah, it's a burn center. So when you start looking at ISO, ISO is going to look and see if you got a training center. They're going to look at all that stuff when they make their evaluation on you.
Where y'all go now? Lakewood?
Yeah, we used to go to Lakewood back
They
years
still
ago.
there?
No, I think they moved to the.
So where do y'all go now?
Right now, we partner with these. Well, for do the burn.
I mean, where's this at?
This is Augusta. That's
I mean,
Augusta.
where do y'all go for y'all's burn training?
We go to East Point, or we go to Peachtree City also.
Okay. So I was asking.
So we have to kind of borrow space and kind of get down there. So that's kind of where our locations are.
Well, if you had to pick between that and an additional station, I mean, would it be a contest or?
I think maybe an addition, I don't know. It's gonna have to kind of do a pros and cons on it. Both have so much value, and it's kind of hard to say which is more important when you have a lot of needs. It's kind of hard to say this one or that one.
One thing we've done on this council that I can appreciate is we do a feasibility study.
That's it.
And Sizemore Group, we did it for
Right.
the arena, we did it for the, if anybody came in my office, that big picture behind my desk,
Mhm.
that's as far as I got. But we did do a $20,000 study with Sizemore, and it can give you more facts.
Well, actually, that's probably maybe step one in my step-by-step instruction for doing the feasibility study to find out where
I
we
would
are.
support that.
So when you start looking at time, distances, and location to your target hazards,
I
You
would
gotta have
support
an
that.
idea how long it's gonna take you to get there.
Yeah.
Is
right
that
now-
budgeted now?
Huh?
Is a study budgeted for this year?
I think we got some consultation, but I don't know if we've got a budget for this year, not this current fiscal year.
Chief, can you go back and
Yes, ma'am.
see if you can figure that out? And because this is a lot of information
It
to
is,
digest,
yeah.
it seems like this is a
This is a meeting in
multi-year.
itself.
This is a multi-year
It is.
plan that we could have an hour-long conversation about, honestly. And,
Yes.
and all of this is vitally important as the city grows. But I think to Councilmember Gay's point, I think it is very well taken. That
I do think you need to put a
Oh,
placeholder
I was still
for a
talking.
study. I'm sorry. That's so
yeah,
rude
that
of me.
I was just getting to that point. That's exactly what I was gonna say.
We
like
all,
to
we all
to your
so
point.
smart. We be thinking. and
Yeah,
like,
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
Nothing
Let-
wrong with that.
yeah, if you can, I mean, we'll be coming back on this. We'll be coming back on this budget. So if you can, in the interim, figure out, get a sense of how much a study might cost,
Sure. I
and
can
come
work on that.
come back around for that.
Mr. Finance Manager, could you just put a placeholder for? Could you put a placeholder for just a study,
Yes.
please, sir?
And I think to kind of bring this thing home, I know we need to move on to the next pages. If you go to page 12, you get an idea of our call volume and what we're running on. So we're looking at possibly, the average is like a 4-minute response time on your initial first engine and the rest of your oncoming forces. So if you look at our response times, 9 minutes, 6 minutes, 6 minutes, 6 minutes, that's what we're averaging for our response times. And that's based on proximity and things of that nature. So right now, and in order to get coverage, because from initial fire all the way to fully involved is 2 minutes. And that's kind of the target we're looking at. So we have to paint the proper picture. We got to get out, we got to get there quickly. And some of those places, it's just like how we're going to get there effectively and quickly and safely. So I'll be willing to talk to you folks as much as you want to hear. That's why I brought this, just in case somebody asked me. And I'm glad you did.
On a closing note,
Yes, sir.
on a more serious, not a more serious, but a more sensitive topic, are you allowing enough money for mental health?
Most of our mental health resources are coming from in-house. The last major events we've had, we partnered with the state, and they came down to provide support for us. So they've been pretty forthright as far as coming in to be able to provide service for us. You know, we have our in-house, you have EAP from HR has been really supportive with us, and we have some in-house kind of critical incident staff personnel that can come in and start kind of putting a Band-Aid on it. So it's hard to put a target number on it because I don't know what that looks like besides those additional external sources. So I'm not sure, you know. So
Well, you could have more conversations with what's that place around the corner from y'all?
Odyssey?
Odyssey.
Mhm.
Yeah, you can start going and having a conversation
Sure.
with Odyssey.
Sure.
Because this is serious. This mental health is serious.
Oh, for sure.
My son his classmate just killed himself.
Yeah.
Talking
That's terrible.
21 years old.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy, man.
And see, historically, we're starting to learn that the effect what firefighters do is it's more of a synergistic effect because we start looking at all those calls stack up after a while. You start getting from your first call all the way you get to somebody who's been doing this job 30 years. I got 32 years worth of baggage in his head. So so all of that stuff is just piled on, and a lot of the young folks, they just kind of build a little bit different. So it's hard for them to kind of rationale with stress and life stresses where we kind of had to push through and just kind of make it happen. You know, for them, they just not really built like we are. And so we got to find tools and mechanisms to make their life easier. So when they get older like me, they don't necessarily have to go with all that 32 years worth of baggage. They can let it go somewhere.
They don't make 'em like
So
they
I
used
want to make sure that we're using our.
Don't make them like they used to.
Let's make sure that we're using making good use of our time here.
Yes,
Are there
yes, I'm
questions
sorry.
on? I think had we gotten through fire administration? I believe we had.
We did.
In the transaction report, are there any additional questions? All right. Org chart and supporting documentation.
Mm, yeah.
Is Mayor Pro Tem still with us?
Oh, she does. No, she had to leave.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I think it's a train. Yeah. So we're on to fire suppression. Questions on page 1?
Mayor and Council, I guess we want to bring some attention just for transparency. As part of one of the exhibits, I've asked for one additional fire inspector. As far as that, I want you to make sure you guys see that, because I want to kind of move it past you.
Okay.
So we're looking at, based on all the construction and everything going on, we're gonna need one more person in community risk reduction so we can start ahead on that wave. There's a lot of stuff going on in College Park that we just gotta be involved and be a part of. And it's kind of hard to do with a division chief and one inspector. And that one inspector came from field operations. So it's kind of hard to balance all that work with just one worker and one manager. So we kind of need that one additional person.
To try to find somebody that has some expertise in multifamily, in particular older multifamily as well.
Understood.
I mean, since we're 75% rental, it'd be
Yeah,
good to have someone that has some insight there as well.
Yes,
to
sir.
help us out.
Is that the person that gives us the COs?
Yeah, I think that department would, we get
Certificate of occupancy?
Yeah, yeah.
Is that what this person will do?
With that person, hopefully, we're gonna try to have some more redundancy in the department, so I really don't want, I want our inspectors to be able to do everything. That way, if one inspector's off, the other person is like, okay, well, I don't do that, so we gotta wait for a king to come back. We need that flexibility between the two inspectors, so if one's off, we can have a little more range and room, kind of for both of them to do. So we'll probably do the CEOs as well. So it's a few things we're looking at.
Questions on page 1 of fire suppression? I would go to 51, 50, 20.
What's the number, ma'am?
51, 50, 20. Overtime.
Yes.
We've certainly come down from the 2024 amount, but still way over budget in overtime. Is 250 a reasonable expectation?
Well, historically, I think we ran, Ms. Huggins ran a 3-year projection. We've always exceeded 250.
Right.
And especially with the number of vacancies and all that, I think it's just, it may not be realistic to stay at the 250. Historically, how would it be running on overtime? In the fours, at least 400,000. If we did an average between the last 3 years, I think 400,000 would be a reasonable number where we usually target. So I think that'll be kind of more in line with what we possibly would be.
I think that, I mean, realistically speaking, you're going into your overtime because you're not fully staffed. Is that fair?
That's
Is that a
right.
fair assessment?
Yes, ma'am.
So, I'm not. My suggestion would be to
How-
move that from operating salary into overtime.
Yeah, so the money issues, maybe we'll chime in.
No, I was
Okay.
just gonna ask how
One of the
many,
issues you have when you start looking at vacancies, and then you have recruit training as well. So those recruits go against your staffing numbers, but they're not line personnel. And it may take a recruit, depending on if they have no experience and no certifications, it may take about 1.5 years to get them certified. So they count against your staffing number, but you can't use them for 1.5 years.
Right.
And while you can't use them, all of a sudden your overtime still goes up even though you don't have the vacancy. So it's a balancing act on what you can do with it.
So, do you have enough people in the pipeline that you anticipate you will meet your $4.2 million budget for operating salary?
As far as in right now in the hiring process,
Yes, sir.
I think we do.
Okay.
We'll have a plan, I would imagine, within 30 days possibly. Yeah, we're trying to work out some logistics to kind of move our numbers a little bit quicker, but I think within 30 days, we won't have any vacancies.
Oh, okay.
That's my goal, because we're hiring new people without certification, and we're hiring certified as well. So those certified go 2 weeks in administration, then they go out to the field. So that'll be a plus up almost, really quickly.
But you still think that even with being fully staffed, that 250 is not realistic?
I think historically, once you look at it, that 250 may be so low. Yeah,
So, I mean, let's be real about what you need.
yeah. So what's my ask?
Yeah.
I've never been asked that.
Chief, I don't want to, if you want to take some time on it, that's fine.
I would hate
That's,
to give you a
that's,
rush and
that,
give you
yeah,
a
that's
number.
fine. That's
But-
absolutely fine. I just, if we know we're going to blow through the number,
Yeah.
let's get a realistic number.
Can we bring
Yeah.
it back?
Yeah,
Can we add
absolutely.
Other contingencies, please?
And see, the crazy part about it, when you start looking at our budget, I mean, our overtime budget's almost blown before you get to second quarter.
Right.
And that's the part that's, yeah, if you look at the numbers, we're over the overtime within 6 months, we're over the number. I said, now you start eating into the lap salary because you eat into the vacancies. You're relying on vacancies to make up the difference in your staffing shortages.
Right.
So,
But if you're going to be fully staffed and you still think you're going to need more than 250,
was-
just
yeah.
do the.
I'll come up
yeah.
with a solid number for you.
Fair enough.
Yes.
Any other questions on page 1? Moving on to page 2. Page 3. So excited we're getting a new fire safety house.
Yeah, yeah. It's time. It's time.
It is time.
Yes. We're gonna try to get one that's ADA compliant so we can kind of
Oh,
bring in
excellent.
more. So that's gonna be the shop to kind of make sure that everybody can access it.
Great.
So that's what we're shopping for. Yeah, we just gotta go back and look and see the sources. Like I said, because we want to make sure that it's, get everything that we need to get, because it'll be a purchase we want to do, probably do again for 10 years. So we want to make sure you have everything you need on it.
Questions on the transaction report? See on the org chart, you are requesting 1 additional firefighter.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Yeah, we're just replacing the firefighter that went, firefighter King left the suppression to take the inspector position. So they took it from field suppression and moved it over to community risk reduction. So I just want to put that position back.
Okay. Additional questions on the org chart or the supplemental information?
If I can squeeze a part-time instructor out of it, that'd be pretty good too. I would not be, what are you asking? I'm just, it's in the next page, in Exhibit C. It's requested. Yeah, it's just requested. Yeah, it's just an ask.
Is it, wait, hold on. Yes, but is it? I see the exhibit on the worksheet. Is it, is there a position consideration?
As far as, no,
That's what,
no.
okay.
It's a request.
Because I don't even see the position consideration.
It was if the ask got in, we would provide all the job description and everything else with it. Was your part of your exhibits?
It's in the exhibit, but we've typically seen, there's a line item for position consideration.
Oh, got it. Okay. No, we didn't put it there. Okay, understood. So you would-
How much were we talking about?
Just trying to say how to say. I've had 18 years of service, and previously we were told not to put it in the budget until it was approved. That's why we didn't add it. But if that's changed going forward, we can do that. But I just reflected it in the exhibit.
Is that the, what was it? I thought I saw 80,000.
It's the
That's the
training. adjunct
I see it.
instructor.
Mhm.
So with all expenses, 41, and there's no benefits for that employee
No.
because it's part-time.
Gotcha.
Working about 30 hours a week possibly.
Yes.
Chief, I think, everybody wants to make sure everybody has what they need.
Yes, sir.
Now, at the same time, we got a lot of departments.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you came up doing soundings and then you
Yeah,
made your
I was
argument
tracking.
with the city manager, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And again, the better trained firefighters we have, obviously, the better off we're going to be. Goes without saying. The more expenses we add, we've got to balance this budget out. So
Understood. Understood. Yeah, it was for me is kind of looking at all the, when you kind of doing a self-analysis of your department to kind of see where your shortfalls are. It's trying to plug in leaks and figure out where you need to fortify a little bit. So I'm tracking you though. I understand you.
and balancing from your department's perspective, and I don't mean just money wise.
Yeah.
You're asking for more people. You probably need more people.
Yes, sir.
All right, but does more people equate to fewer fires? At the end of the day, or fewer calls for service, or fewer, I want to just.
Yes, understood. Understood.
So let's just be looking at that now. I know obviously you can't, predict when and where and what we're looking at and what we're gonna be dealing with, but at the end of the day, we want this to be something tangible where residents see
Sure.
the improved service, physically
Understood.
out there.
Understood.
I just have one follow-up question in reference to the training. Are we currently paying a consultant? Do we have someone contracted doing this training?
Well, depending on a lot of training, that we have fire training and EMS training. So part of the ask was possibly having EMS going through grade EMS services. I think that was part of the things we're kind of looking at. So something training we do in-house and some we farm out or we partner with somebody else to kind of make it happen. So it's kind of a hodgepodge of all the above, just based on what our needs are, what the capabilities we have and all that stuff. So the state is having some different requirements even for EMT training. Now they're putting these other additional requirements on us, so it's making it more difficult to do our EMTs in-house because you almost have to work with an accredited agency and all that stuff. So it's some tweaks they're doing. It's kind of making us move in a different direction as far as doing it how we used to do it. So we're just trying to change with the flow, what the state is requiring now versus before.
Okay,
I hope I answered your question.
I think so, yeah.
Is Miss Gilbert here? You sitting in for Rose Stewart? Okay.
Okay. I'm sorry for taking so long. I kind of went into it.
You have taken quite a while.
I'm sorry, sir.
All right. So are there additional questions on the supplemental documentation? All right. So on EMS, everything's been zeroed out because Chief Taylor's been moved into fire administration.
Yes, sir. Yes,
So
sir. Yes.
there doesn't. I mean, everything in there is already in fire administration, so we've covered that already.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Chief.
Outstanding.
Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
We don't need one of those fire votes.
No, we never need a vote.
Well, not this year.
Yes, indeed.
We're saving that for next.
We have other jobs.
We're on to information technology.
Yay! Yay! This where the money is right here. This where the money is. IT went up 3,000% since Mike been here. 3,000%.
Questions on page 1?
IT.
Mr. Hicks, your microphone is not on.
It was good, thank you.
All those depreciations of equipment that got zeroed out in other budgets are over here.
Yes,
Mm-hmm. At 52, 57, and 30.
right. No longer exist.
Right. All right. Page 2. Mr. Hicks, 58,2300. Hold on, I may just. Never mind.
Right.
The detail. I just answered my own question. Any questions on page 2? All right. Transaction report.
So it's a pretty long line of information for the equipment. I wanted to ask a question. I think I asked this the other night, but you weren't here. And that is in support of turning on our services in Office 365
Right.
and DocuSign, excuse me, and
Adobe.
Adobe
Yes.
for the AI assistance.
Yes. So we're working on getting those quotes.
Okay.
We're gonna get a quote for Microsoft Copilot you talked
Yep,
about.
yep.
And for Adobe for AI.
Okay, perfect.
Right. Aaron is waiting on those.
Okay, love it.
quotes.
Love it. Thank you.
Additional transaction report questions.
Mayor, I had one that I've already shared with the IT director and Mr. Jackson. I was asking that we look at, in addition to SageGov, I think it's approximately $14,000. It's another module, but what it does is it allows our citizens to do more from home without coming here. One of the main ones is set up your new account. They can upload their documentation, give our customer service people more freedom. But it's only 14,000. So I would like to add that, please.
We wanna add it to the agenda or add it to my 2026, 27? I think we wanna add that to the agenda.
You mean buying it now?
Right.
No, I mean it can be bought in the. when
Okay,
we go to
then
the
let's
next
add it
budget.
to the, Dr. E, can we add it to the 26, 27?
Yeah.
25, 26.
25, 26. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Additional questions on transactions.
I have one more question. I'm sorry. What we're doing for the dais, the software we're supposed to be doing for that. Is that in here? For the clerk's office and for our votes,
Right.
citizen
It's in the
comments?
clerk's
It
budget.
is, okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Well, speaking of that, I wanted to take a look at.
Your mic is not on.
I talked to Dr. E about communications, and you are going to have taken a look at the camera system. There's a 4-camera system that I think would be sufficient
Sure.
for City Hall. That's pretty, council chambers. And I want
Antoinette
y'all to
spoke
go
with
look
me
at
about it
tomorrow.
today.
Yeah, and it seems like a pretty reasonable system, but the AV person, I wanted y'all to meet them and take a look at what they've got, and if that's something that could work for us. So I want to make sure we do that sometime tomorrow and go up there to take a look at it.
City manager been briefed on that.
Yeah, we talked about it.
What kind
She
of
talked to
camera
me about
system we talking
Camera
about?
system in the lobby,
No, for the
Well,
council
camera-
chamber.
Camera system in the council.
in our council,
In the council chamber, right.
to put
Right.
us on camera?
Well, it's a.
Yes.
Instead of that?
Instead of
it's a
this,
full-
yes.
Full camera
Oh,
automated
okay.
Yeah.
fixed system,
Oh.
and it's a lot cheaper than what, it's a lot, yeah.
Because in the current council chamber upgrade, we've got phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 we're working on now, which is the voting,
The
community
grants, yeah, okay.
engagement, and then the agenda package. We're working on implementing that now. The
Gotcha.
phase 2 is gonna be cameras, new monitors, upgraded, audio system.
Amen to the new
And
monitors.
that audio visual, we gave consensus at the retreat.
No,
Remember at the retreat, we gave consensus for a new.
Oh, you mean
For the new what?
For a new one.
Dr. Adediran, your microphone's not
Oh,
on.
yeah.
Oh, for the new,
And-
screen.
Yeah.
And that's not enough computers at y'all desk. There's only 3, right?
Right. That's what he was saying. We're gonna get some new
And a new
monitors.
monitor to come down.
You mean the new screen?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't put that in my budget. I did
I
not.
thought you were gonna get that.
We gave.
You know,
consensus.
we're talking about a projector.
Okay.
You're talking a projector. We buying a new projector.
Well, the roll
But,
down.
but the
roll
actual
down
screen, I don't have that in my budget. Would you
Well,
all like
gotta
for me
put
to
it-
add?
You gotta project it on something, Mike.
Well,
Well, you
So,
probably-
but are we
you
talking about-
probably need a new screen as well.
are we
We
talking
probably
about,
don't need a screen. Maybe we just need televisions, like larger, like two-sided, like two televisions might mount it up there. Might
oh,
be
yeah, that
better.
would be
I
nice
know
too.
down at the state capitol,
Mhm.
they got big old screens on both sides
Yeah.
of the thing. That mean like those things, but they're real big.
Yeah,
And but they got a better screen too. I
yeah,
mean,
they're like those
I
big,
mean,
big
my
monitors.
church got all kind of monitors.
I'll look at
man.
different options.
But when we went from the county, we went from the projector to the.
Yeah.
Look at monitors.
So now, are we saying
as
for
opposed
it
to a
to be
screen.
in this budget, or are we talking about, because we talked about this at the
This
retreat?
was 20. This is the current budget. I
Right.
thought I saw you had
Didn't we
people
didn't
down
talk
there
about it at the
pricing it.
retreat?
No, there was
Okay.
pricing the upgraded chamber, but not the actual screen itself.
Well,
So
can you take a
can
look
we?
at it?
Yeah, I was gonna say, can we
We can just take a
just,
look.
just like the chief?
Sure.
Yep.
And then Mr.
Thank you.
So it's, since
Jackson,
it's not
Terry
there,
can
let's
just budget
figure it out and then come back
placeholder.
around.
Okay.
Additional questions on the transaction report?
I hate to keep saying this, but you know, there may be an opportunity to put a LED behind us. Behind us where we sit.
It's awfully
That's
tight.
the
That's
wall?
how we got it
Huh?
in the county.
It's awfully
We
tight.
put it behind us, but it's a little less space back there.
Is there not enough
But
space?
I mean, it hangs well, you know, where we got it, but,
I don't know, if you have enough depth perception coming down from that ceiling to where you all sit, and then behind where you all sit, I'm not sure if we got enough
I didn't know.
depth to do that.
All right. So questions on the org chart or supporting documentation?
You have two, how many people you have? How many positions you got?
7, so remember Joshua that worked with us, Joshua went back to New York.
But you gotta replace him.
Yeah, we gotta replace Joshua.
Cybersecurity. No,
No, we have a cybersecurity. Jacquez is a cybersecurity guy.
I didn't know.
Yeah, we just gotta replace Joshua.
Mike, you know, with our corridor, it's still kind of hard to send a text or get stuff when you send stuff. So we want to, I don't know what it is, but we still want to try to get a little better reception there. Because when I get it between there, even at the parking lot,
Okay.
it's like some kind of a, like, where
Okay.
we can't hardly, I mean, it's hard.
So
to
Dr.
get
E, the same
something.
device that I put,
Fine.
right, and so I'm gonna put that same device on that hallway.
Maybe that's what it is.
So, did you know,
Yeah, between where the parking lot area and our entire hallway, it's just, I don't, it's something that,
okay, well, we bought some service enhancers from Verizon, and we put one in the city manager's office. So we'll put one on there.
Gotcha.
All right. Any other questions?
Nope.
Hearing none others, that concludes our budget discussions for the evening. We will see everybody next week. Take care.